Yeah.
All right, we're recording now. Go ahead.
Very cool. So could you tell me before we even begin, like a little bit about you and the projects you're working on?
Yeah, I'm RL Bryer. I'm an author. I wrote Blockchain Project Renaissance 1 and 2. And I've been in crypto since 2009. And
Man, that's super early. How did you find out about crypto in '09?
I read an article. I believe I see. I can't remember if it was an article or a video, but I saw a piece of content in 2009. I was finishing school at Ohio State University, and I actually remember when I read it or saw it online because I was sitting there with my roommate. I've told this story a few times, and or actually, it was a friend sleeping on my futon at the time, and I looked at him. I said, "Have you heard about this Bitcoin thing?" And he said, "Yeah, he had." And it was like I still remember that conversation. And I like to tell people about how back then it was like you could go a week or two without any new content about Bitcoin or anything back then. It was hard to find anything out about it because I hadn't stumbled upon the Bitcoin talk forum or anything like that yet. So yeah.
What did you do once you found out about Bitcoin though? I mean, did you actually buy some or try to do a transaction? I mean,
no, I was kind of just I was interested in the like economic side of it from the onset. Like I was a Ron Paul supporter guy, and that kind of like was the beginning of it. It kind of like hit home to me. I was looking for a way. It was kind of a bleak time at that point. I felt like a lot of people were disappointed with, we just came out of the financial crisis and stuff. So that was sort of sparked my interest.
Got it. And it pushed you so far that you wrote a book? When did you
I wrote the book last year. I finally said, you know what, I feel like I have a lot of knowledge about this, space, and I wanted to try to help. Saw a lot of people being taken advantage of with ICOs and just a lot of stuff like that, people that weren't as well versed as I feel like I am. Not that I know everything or anything, but, I just felt like I could help people.
So was the book more technical, or is it more about the application of a new monetary system? I mean, what is your thesis?
It's sort of like through an anarcho-capitalist lens, to be honest with you. I wrote about, just why I think it'll be adopted and all of the, ends to means and all that stuff. Just a very, very wide variety of stuff. It's not a super long. The first one wasn't super long. The second one, they're both about 50, 60 pages. So
okay.
I wanted to condense a lot of stuff and make the chapters short. It's people's time span these days isn't that long. So I felt like if I can write three, like a trilogy, or just maybe keep updating every year or two, it would be beneficial to a lot of people.
That's a pretty cool accomplishment.
Thank you.
So no matter how long the book is, sitting down and kind of finalizing or memorializing your thoughts on things, I think is something that's lost today. And I really appreciate when people do that. I come up with crazy ideas all the time, and I don't necessarily get a chance to bounce them off people. And I'm not a writer, which we're forced to write investment memos, but I wish I was the kind of person that would write my ideas down and then really press them to kind of their full potential. But anyway, we all have our skills, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you have plenty of skills, I know. This is the fourth episode we've done, so if I could flip the script and start shooting some questions over, is that all right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm very honored to have you on today. This is Jason A. Williams, for anyone who doesn't know. He's the co-founder at Morgan Creek Digital, and his venture capital fund raised over $40 million. That was released earlier this year, February. I think you guys went to press with that. So, like I said, honored to have you on today. If you want to, I always like to start kind of in the beginning, like where are you guys based at?
Yeah, so we have offices in New York and in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So it's Mark Yusko for Morgan Creek Capital Management and Anthony Pompliano and I came together to form Morgan Creek Digital Assets. So the firm really focuses on infrastructure and cryptocurrencies, specifically Bitcoin.
All right. And one of the things I like to ask people of this is, like I said, this is only the fourth episode, but I kind of like to know, like, what's your backstory? Where you grew up? Where were you like as a kid? Good student? You know, I'm interested in like the entrepreneurial stuff.
Yeah, so going way back, I grew up in New York and from Queens, Jamaica, Queens. And I was a decent student, went to PS 33, wanted to be an athlete, played baseball and soccer. And my mom moved us to Florida, ended up finishing high school there, Stuart, Florida on the East Coast. And then had aspirations to be a professional soccer player. So lived in Peterborough, Ontario, in Canada and played, lived in Lima, Peru, played there as well. But ended up going back and finishing my undergraduate here in North Carolina and got accepted to Yale to do medicine. Ended up dropping out of my surgical residency and moving back to North Carolina and starting a company, like an urgent care business called FastMed. And I grew that into the nation's second largest urgent care and primary care practice.
Wow,
so it was huge. Yeah, I had like,
it
had like 123 locations, 1,400 employees, like 400 doctors and PAs working for me, and took it through 3 different private equity and venture capital transactions. The first in 2010 with a small shop called Comvest Capital based in West Palm Beach, Florida. And I think they had about 2 billion AUM. And then I did a really big deal with Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina, where they invested about $20 million of growth capital. And that was the first time in U.S. healthcare history that a major payer had invested in the provider side of healthcare. And then I sold the whole company in 2015 to a Boston-based private equity firm called Abry Partners, a bigger shop, and they have been running FastMed ever since. I had a complete exit at that time.
So was that your first business? You hit a home run right off the bat, basically?
Man, I literally started it when I was 23 and built that over a 13-year period. So that was my one and only business that I started, and I had been doing some investing, but that was it. Yeah, kind of crushed it. $500 million exit.
Super impressive. I got to ask you real quick. I'm a pretty big proper football fan. Who's your club? I'm a big Barcelona Roma guy.
All right. Yeah. So I'm a Manchester United fan.
Oh, nice.
So I carry a British and U.S. passport. My father's from Manchester, England. My mother is American, but huge Manchester United fan. Really excited about getting Harry Maguire, because our defense has been complete shit for a number of years now. So with Wan Bissaka and Harry Maguire, I think we're going to give the English Premier League a run for their money this year.
Shape up the back of the defense, huh? There you go.
That's right.
I got to ask you real quick. I got the Barcelona scarf up there. You can't see it right now.
Yeah. Look, I'll send you a photo. I ran into Lionel Messi probably 2 years ago at the pool in Turks and Caicos. And awesome. I was at the coffee shop with my wife, and she's like, I think Messi is sitting behind you. And I literally turned around. He's there like by himself. And I walk up to him, give him a high five, sit down. He's such
you get a picture with him or no?
Man. Yeah.
You got to send me that when we're done.
Yeah, I will. I
don't want me to get off. I'm sure you and I can talk about that all day. All right.
Definitely.
Send me that though. Okay.
So swinging back to 2013, 2014, I started doing venture investing and put a large amount of capital to play, my own money. And, that was really where I started to get excited about doing deals and investing capital beyond just being an entrepreneur and building businesses.
Okay, so I know that Mark Yusko is the CEO of Morgan Creek. So, and you and Anthony Pompliano co-founded the digital side. How did you guys all come together?
Right. So so Anthony was working at Facebook, got recruited away to work at Snap, and then had a really bad situation over there. I'll let you and your listeners read about that. So he's actively involved in a lawsuit with Snapchat right now. But he was initially living in Raleigh, North Carolina. So we moved from the West Coast back to North Carolina. And I had done some deals with Mark Cuban from Shark Tank. And
he's a Pittsburgh guy too. I know Mark.
Yeah. So they contacted me and said, hey, this really smart kid is moving from the West Coast back to Raleigh. Aren't you in Raleigh, Jason? I said, yes. And they said, we should get together. So Pomp and I met like early 2015 and just hit it off. And we decided we wanted to start an early stage venture fund that focused on professionalizing friends and family investing. Okay. So we raised about 16 million bucks and deployed that into like 65 different companies. And while we were doing that venture investing, we noticed two things happening. A lot of the smart money was going into blockchain technologies and crypto. And we also noticed a lot of the talent was going that way. So, one of the, kind of mantras of investing is, follow the talent, follow the money.
Yeah.
So, we started to dive down the rabbit hole of what crypto was and, how could we participate?
Okay, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, we decided to do our next fund. So we closed fund one of Full Tilt, and we decided to do a second fund, a $25 million fund that specifically focused on blockchain technologies and cryptocurrency. And that's when Mark Yusko gave us a call. Oh. Mark is a fantastic guy. I mean, he's like 55, 56 years old. And when you look at the landscape of guys his age with his experience and being, a macro global economist, smart hedge fund investor, there's not very many guys who were super bullish on crypto. So when he called us, we showed up, and over a 3 or 4 month time period, we decided to join forces and build Morgan Creek Digital together so that we could use his institutional experience and his 40 full-time employees to kind of professionalize Pomp and I, who are working out of coffee shops.
Very cool. Yeah. I've watched a few interviews with Mark as well, and he's definitely, you can just listen to him and you can tell how smart he is. He's definitely an intelligent guy.
He's all over it. So, the coming together of Pomp, him being, I think Pomp's 31 now, super in touch with kind of the landscape and the who's who of Silicon Valley. I'm more of the technical guy, so we'll get into kind of what I add, hopefully during this interview. And then, Mark has the institutional relationships with, 25 years investing.
Very cool. So what year was that you started the fund, the digital side of the Morgan
2015, we started Full Tilt. We started Morgan Creek in 2017, 2018. So it's, the fund's only 18 months old, but we went out and crushed.
When did you really hear about Bitcoin for the first time? Was that the year prior?
No, for me, it was 2012, actually. Okay. So while I was CEO of FastMed, one of my sales guys named Will Basham walked into my office one day and said, hey, you need to take a look at this kind of Bitcoin thing. Some of my buddies, and he name dropped Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss to me. And I literally was like, bro, I don't have time for your magic internet money and your buddies, Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss. So I looked at and listened to him super reluctantly. But that was about the beginning and end of my introduction to crypto. The next time I really dove deep into it, mm-hmm. I was in a car for 6 hours with Pomp, and we were going to buy a laundromat in Charlotte, North Carolina, if you could imagine. And we just went after it. We were really pressing, how do we make an investment in the space? What's the best angle? I'm an infrastructure guy. I don't understand ICOs at all. They seem scammy bullshit. I think the best thing to do is mine. And that's how we initially entered the space. It was as miners.
So you guys were thinking, or you did set up a little mining operation, or no?
Yeah. So check this out. When I left FastMed in 2015, the next thing I did was this waste to energy business. Okay. So I was already creating about 2 megawatts of power off of waste, specifically whole car tires, and I could sell that power into the grid at like 4.5 cents a kilowatt hour. But this is like late 2015. I went all in and built the world's first waste to energy cryptocurrency mine. So I put a large amount of power into mining Ethereum.
Very cool. Very cool. What was your what was the moment, if you could take us back, that when you were like the light bulb went off? Because like the way you said, a lot of people hear about Bitcoin and are like, man, I don't want your magic internet money or your money that only exists in the ether or whatever. Like what was that moment for you?
Everything, or my style of investing is I have to do it. I have to put real money into a project so that I can kind of touch it, feel it, take it seriously. And it was mining. It was actually sitting down with this young kid, J.P. Barrick. He had just dropped out of NC State University. I mean, he was like, he had to be 18 years old at the time. And he had a bunch of 14 and 15-year-old kids that were helping him source GPUs.
Okay.
So it was literally us sitting down, building a GPU mining rig, hooking it up, and watching it mine Ethereum. Like when that happened, like the light went off. And then I said, okay, now I've got some Ethereum. At that time, we were mining it for like $45. It was like $45 a coin.
Yeah.
And we went through the full evolution of custody. Now, do I sell it? Do I hold it? How do I monetize this thing?
Yeah.
And you really, that's how I got my education in crypto, is that full kind of move through the, mining, creating power, domiciling the crypto, paying taxes on crypto, turning it into fiat, buying. I really didn't buy altcoins. It was really just changing Ethereum into Bitcoin.
Okay, so somebody who made a great move into, a lot of people like to say, we're wasting energy or whatever. So you think that there's a proper way to do it? Then there's a easier way to do it.
Yeah, I think that's complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Anyone that's saying that cryptocurrency mining is wasting resources here on the planet, I just patently disagree with that. And when you really start to unpack the power that's being used in crypto, like 75% of it is renewable. So you almost have like a renewable renaissance, or all of these smart kids are coming up with ways to mine crypto using hydro and tidal and wind and solar, and I'm using waste. I mean, come on, man. This isn't stealing power that people need to turn the lights on.
Yeah, the free market always gets ahead of these sort of things. Like, somebody's going to figure it, like you just mentioned. There's all these different smart people already working on this problem. So I just wanted to hear what your opinion was on that.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm wondering now about how you guys evaluate new assets, how quickly you can incorporate them into your portfolio.
Yeah, so typically our process is one of the three of us gets a lead on some area of interest, and we present it to the group and really press hard on it. We try to, initially, if we have consensus, we'll set up a call with the founders. But if we can't get consensus on the deal, or it doesn't meet some thematic bucket that we are interested in, we pass pretty quick. I mean, we're inundated with deals. I mean, we probably, when we were doing full tilt, looked at 2,000 deals to invest in 63. We invested in 22 projects with our Morgan Creek Blockchain Opportunity Fund, and then put some money into Bitcoin in particular. But, the process is pretty fast. I mean, we try to get to a no quick so that we don't waste the founder's time. I mean, as an entrepreneur and founder, I hate when someone drags the process out on me.
Yeah, time is of the essence, right?
Yeah, time is money, and it's specifically if you're raising capital like an early stage company is, you just can't afford to waste your time.
Absolutely. So, what are your thoughts on Libra? If we're gonna, I don't know how much you want to talk about that. I'm kind of curious. Facebook's new Libra project. Are you kind of surprised about the backlash of that they've taken? There's sort of, they're kind of, Facebook's a little bit connected, at least, a lot of people think that politically. So I was wondering what you think about that.
Yeah, so Libra is super important. And the way I kind of frame the discussion about Libra is sort of like the Petro, in Venezuela.
Yeah.
So, that was there was an attempt to institutionalize that oil-backed currency, and in my opinion, it lifted up Bitcoin. So you see huge adoption of Bitcoin in Venezuela and a lot of countries in South America. You didn't see huge adoption of the petro. What I think will happen with Libra is it'll never get out of the gate. I think, unfortunately, Facebook had so many regulatory issues and privacy concerns already for them to try to put out a stable coin like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so easy for politicians to get behind it and stop it. But some politicians, the thoughtful ones, in my opinion, have tried to support the idea of cryptocurrency, the idea of Bitcoin, and all the good things that that banking the unbanked really bring to the world. So I'm inspired by that.
Yeah.
I think Facebook and Libra have a long way to go, and I think most of the Fortune 50 companies will have their own stable coins. You'll see an Amazon coin, Walmart coin has already been announced. You'll see all of the top companies have their own coin, and eventually maybe even Facebook. But I think it's a project that's it's got a long way to go.
Yeah, we're working on our own stable coin at Epic Cash too. So I was kind of curious what you thought about that, because with they're a highly centralized project, and we have Mimblewimble now. We have other ways to do it better, privately, and not giving up our data to the Facebooks and the Amazons and stuff. I was just wondering if you think like a Mimblewimble project will ever give Bitcoin a run, or if it can even get up there, to like 25% of the market cap or anything like that. You think?
Yeah, I don't want to get too inside baseball with you, but I challenge Pomp and Mark with this all the time. Like, I personally think Bitcoin and that Bitcoin blockchain, you should build your businesses on top of that blockchain, and you should not be concerned about transaction speed or the cost of those transactions, because those will be solved in layer 2 and layer 3, but you should be building your company on that blockchain. I think the rest of the stuff is like a shitty kind of ripoff, like a Me Too. I don't see how the tech has been improved. Now, I may be, I challenge someone to convince me otherwise. But I just, like, if I was building an electronic medical record or some type of healthcare platform right now, I'd build it on Bitcoin.
I understand your point. But just to add one more question, like, onto that, like with countries and stuff, it doesn't worry you at all with, certain places in the world saying that they're going to outlaw or anything like that, crypto completely?
Look, I think that those countries that decide to ban crypto, they're going to fall behind in regards to this technological evolution or revolution that's going on. And I think the United States is at risk of that. I think it's a bad move. Those countries that embrace crypto and blockchain, they're going to see the very best and brightest people converge in those countries and develop the coolest shit ever.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the game theory and everything will definitely force, and they're just going to be left behind. Any nation state that decides that they're not going to get on board, it's like saying you're not going to use, your country's going to outlaw email or the internet, or cell phones or something. It's like,
yeah, and you know what? I'm caught in a catch-22 here. When you listen to someone like Matt Odell talk about AML and KYC and Samurai Wallet and coin mixing to protect anonymity and to allow for these anonymous transactions, it's compelling. But I also see the threat that is the anonymous transactions, and probably why India, China, the United States are concerned about that. But make no mistake, the U.S. dollar is still the number one chosen currency to do bad shit.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So where do you? I want to know about like where you see crypto going in the next 24 months. I know we we just came out of an 18-month or 19-month, whatever, something like that, bear market. And I'm pretty sure that the bull market started in early February or whatever you want to say. At 3,100, we saw a reversal, it seems like, up around 400% now for the year, or at least since we bottomed out. What do you think we're heading in the next 24 months, and then the next decade? What do you see in, down the horizon here, over the horizon?
Yeah, so we're probably in. We have about 130 week bull cycle remaining. So I agree with you. I think we're in a bull market. We pushed chips in starting at 3180, I believe, was our in our fund one when we started really investing in Bitcoin. So we have a pretty nice position. We've seen that appreciate as you've seen your investment appreciate over that same time period. I'm of the belief that there's some events happening in terms of the macro environment that are really important to move the price of Bitcoin up. That is the halving that's coming up in May 2020. But you also see some weird stuff happening with the kind of global economic situations. Here in the United States, we've had a rate cut. I think the Fed will continue to explore rate cuts in the future that will push Bitcoin up. I don't necessarily agree with that strategy, but we're in this kind of financial arms race with China right now.
Race to the bottom.
Yeah, it's kind of like a perfect storm if you believe that Bitcoin's a safe haven against this this current kind of malfunction of the financial markets. So I think we've been in a 10-year bull market in stocks. I think that's going to come to the end. So, if you like gold, I'm not a big gold or silver guy, but it's probably a good place to be. And I think Bitcoin's showing, its asymmetric properties right now as we speak, where the stock market got hit for 600 points this morning. Bitcoin's up 7%, up $800. I mean, that seems asymmetric to me. And it seems like the people were wrong. When you heard things like if the stock market drops, the bottom will fall out of Bitcoin because people will pull their free capital or venture capital away from it. That's the first thing they'll do if they as a flight away from a recession. That is not happening. Look at what happened. Stock market plummeted. You got problems with the renminbi, and Bitcoin rips.
Yeah, so that theory definitely has fallen by the wayside. I think, as you said, there's definitely some divergence there. They're not symbiotic sort of thing. So do you as you mentioned gold? A lot of people, older people, maybe in their 60s or 70s, they still view it as the safe haven. Do you believe that people that grew up in the internet age, closer to our age, that's where everyone that has a little bit of money or has some wealth is going to throw their money into crypto? Do you see like a really stampeding coming in of people that are just going to be like, wow, I see what Bitcoin did in the last year, maybe say this crash comes in the next 18 months, or we don't know when it's coming, but you just see as they pump more phony money into the economy and stuff, lower interest rates, and we see all these things kind of culminate. You see what kind of movement do you see coming into crypto?
Yeah, so let me step back and say, I have huge respect for people like Max Kaiser. I think he's awesome, and if your viewers or you have a chance to listen to his podcast or check him out, the guy was super early Bitcoin, and he loves gold. And so I have a lot of respect for that. Someone like Peter Schiff, I think he's clowny. I mean, I don't even understand why he doesn't see Bitcoin. I think Pomp savaged him on that head-to-head. And
I watched that last night, actually. Yeah,
I mean, Peter, I don't know. He needed to have another cup of coffee before that debate. But I don't know very many 35-year-old or younger people that own gold or silver. Yeah. Other than maybe jewelry. I just don't see the attraction. It's not portable. It's not divisible. I don't know. It's weird. Like I have a 100-ounce silver bar that I lob on the desk every now and then just to show how goofy it is. Thing's heavy. Nobody wants it unless you're a pirate. I don't know why you need this stuff. So from my perspective, those who want to hedge against, hyperinflation, government stealing their wealth, I think Bitcoin is a real alternative, and you're going to see it show up in insurance projects, or you're going to see it show up as a life insurance option. You already see it showing up as an option for your 401k in GBTC. And I think people, although the barriers to entry are still there, the UI UX associated with buying Bitcoin is still really hard. Like, it's not easy. It's not easy connecting your bank to Gemini or Coinbase and funding that account and then buying Bitcoin. It's a slow process. That will get easier. And so over the next kind of 24 months, Bitcoin continues to rip, in my opinion, continues to rip. It rips through the halvening. It rips through all the economic instability. You've got the issues in Hong Kong. You've got Asia malfunctioning. You've got all this stuff going on in South America. You got this oil thing going on. You've got, for the first time in kind of my lifetime, seeing the Middle East borrowing money, these sovereign wealth funds actually using leverage to shore up their losses in oil, and they're borrowing the money from the U.S. I find that to be really interesting if you play that out strategically. Like, why is Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan lending money to Middle Eastern countries? I don't know. It's just you got to play chess, not checkers here. So I think all of it adds to what's going to make Bitcoin a really valuable asset in the near term. Then over the next 10 years, you start to see real projects that are meaningful, and people will stop talking about blockchain, just like we don't talk about internet companies. They'll just be companies built up with blockchain technology. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's just going to be there. It won't be.
That's right.
Part of the dialogue or whatever.
And Bitcoin will reach some terminal escape velocity in terms of price, and that price will be very high, and people will start to transact with it because it won't have the volatility. So 10 years from now, you'll have Bitcoin at a really high price. People will transact in Satoshis, and you'll have companies using blockchain, but we'll never talk about blockchain. It'll just be a technology that, like the internet.
Yeah, it's like Revenge of the Nerds or something, like the autodidacts and everyone that the people that got on there and did all the work in the beginning, did all the reading and stuff, and kind of reaped the benefit. And I agree with you. I think as we get further along here, it's going to be, we're already seeing it. Things are being built. It's becoming much easier to onboard, and companies like yours are making it easier to invest. And I think the future is very bright. So.
Yeah, I agree totally. Again, the UI UX is still goofy. Like I really do spend a lot of time trying to use new technology like BlockFi. It's one of our portfolio companies. I love it. BlockFi. You can put your crypto there. They rehypothecate it. You get paid interest. Again, a lot of people would say, "Oh, you can't get any interest holding crypto," where you can with things like BlockFi. I've been messing around with Lolly. I don't know if you have any experience with that. So it's a way for you to buy goods and services that you typically would buy, but there's a rewards program that pays you with Bitcoin. I think that's really interesting.
Incentivizing people to adopt. Yeah.
Right. And again, the user interface is a little easier, right? I buy something, it automatically deposits my Bitcoin reward in a wallet. Once my wallet gets to $15, I can move that Bitcoin out of the wallet. So the barriers break down. It becomes a little bit easier for me to see this stuff. Like, okay, I see how to use Bitcoin. So 10 years from now, it'll be super easy. I'll be at Dunks buying coffee with Bitcoin.
Gonna be great, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, so I don't have anything else really to ask you. I appreciate you coming on today. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you're a busy man, But do you have any parting shots? Anything you want to mention or anything like that?
No, man. Listen, if you'll send your link to my Twitter account for your book, I'd love to, or your books, I'd love to read them.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. You know, I'm super Bitcoin fan, and you know, I'm always trying to move the ball forward for all of us.
Yeah, if you want to, I'll send you the PDF and the physical. If you want to just send me your address over, I'll send you guys all a copy in the office. So you guys
That's
can.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll send you that picture of me and Messi.
Absolutely, I definitely want to see that. Yeah, I'm a huge Messi fan. I'm trying to get over to Barcelona here in Catalonia. Check that out here in the next year or two before he's not the same player. But he's a freak, man.
It's a beast.
Yeah.
All right, I enjoyed it very much.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
All right, talk soon.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.